What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, it happened. So let's get it started. Welcome, everybody, to another video. Glad you guys are here. And yes, we're back with another Detroit Lions latest video. And today we are going through the latest Lions news. Now, we did our full reaction to the Lions 53-man roster reveal in a live stream. So definitely go check that out. I know it's long, okay, but really the second half of the video is that's just watching random receiver film and then ultimately talking about the move that we're going to talk about today. But I'm going to keep this short and sweet because we did dive into a lot of the preseason stuff in that live stream. Plus, yesterday I did a video with this player included, and it happened. Are expected to sign wide receiver Tim Patrick to the practice squad and ultimately, hopefully, get him to the 53-man roster. Now, before we get into that, couple of quick little side notes here, just from some of the roster news that we did get. First off, Kyle Peko being released was one of my biggest surprises. It didn't really make any sense to me. The guy performed well in practice, and we didn't see him in the preseason. Then all of a sudden, he was cut. I expect that Kyle Peko is probably going to be brought back to the practice squad or to just the 53-man roster immediately once Kaminsky hits IR, because bringing in Kaminsky coming off of a torn MCL and they're hoping to maybe get him back by the playoffs doesn't make sense to hold a roster spot with John Kaminsky. So I expect him to hit that list and then that spot to hopefully be filled by Kyle Peko, because right now the Lions don't have a ton of depth, and it's not like they went out and kept Chris Smith or Pat O'Connor or something, even though that's not really a nose tackle, but it's not like they did that to make it make sense that, oh, that's why they cut Kyle Peko. Instead, I just think it's kind of a roster move. We'll see those kind of little things that teams do to kind of just make it work going into the roster cuts. Also, the other thing I wanted to point out here is that the Lions kept 3 undrafted free agents from this offseason, and I want to give a clap to all those guys. Isaiah Williams absolutely took that role. He's like, hey, I'm receiver 4. You're only going to keep 4? Initially, I'm going to be receiver 4, and he absolutely ran away with that. Well-deserved for Isaiah Williams, and he bounced back from some tough plays as well. Showed he could separate, one underneath, did things after the catch, and then started to expand his game a little bit throughout the preseason. Also, Hogan Hatton took over the long snapper role, was the top long snapper in the preseason, and he also played a couple linebacker snaps. And finally, it was the safety, Lauren Strickland, who I'm absolutely fired up for. There was a lot of predictions I had wrong, but the one that I stuck to, and I was like, I'm not going to get off this ledge, was Lauren Strickland making the 53-man roster. And yes, it happened. Lauren Strickland made the 53-man roster. The guy absolutely earned it. They put more on his plate, and he excelled. Safety, slot. He's a special teams unit. He's all over the run, and his awareness and coverage was great. I'm so happy for Lauren Strickland. Well-deserved spot. And that was not a tough spot to earn when you have guys like C.J. Moore, who are also back out there. But Strickland took that position. He earned that position. I'm glad the Lions gave him the nod and saying, we're going to go a little bit deeper at defensive back. We're going to keep the safety depth because now we have a ton of flexibility. But Lauren Strickland, you earned this. And your ability to add more and put more on your plate and play at a high level, you earned this spot. Now, today I want to talk really quickly about Tim Patrick a little bit. This is not your full breakdown video because this news just happened, but I wanted to discuss this player a little bit here. This is a 30-year-old receiver listed in at 6'4", 212 pounds that we talked about yesterday. And I showed his preseason film a little bit yesterday, so feel free to go check that video out as well if you think I'm being biased on anything I say in this video, because I liked him yesterday. That's why I threw him in there. And to see the Lions make this move, man, I was so excited because this happened when we were live streaming. And when you look at this player, of course, the talk is going to be about the size and the speed. Unofficially ran a 4.47 40 coming out of Utah back in 2017. 37.5-inch vertical, 6.99 3-cone drill. The size and speed are going to be the talk. And that does make sense. We know the Lions probably wanted to add some of that, and they were able to get some of that back by making this move with Tim Patrick. What that they would want in their other receiver, of course, was having some size, but all I was looking for was, hey, can he beat man coverage, right? That's really step number 1. Can he beat man coverage? Number 2, I need a smart receiver that understands how to find windows in zone coverage, understands timing, which is so crucial into this offense. That's what Josh Reynolds thrived at. And, of course, is a reliable pass catcher. If you can do those 3 things, that's a guy that I want to go after. And Tim Patrick, to me, checks all of those boxes. Now, him being released from Denver was interesting because he got good reps and he performed well. Only played in 2 preseason games. The first one, he had the slant reception against the Colts. Second game, lit up the Packers. 4 receptions, 30 yards, and a touchdown. Yet, because of being almost 31 years old and coming off of a torn Achilles and then before that a torn ACL, that makes a ton of sense that they would have moved off this player because of that injury history. That being said, he was still performing. He was still performing in this preseason, and he looked good. I went back, rewatched that, and also looked at some of the stuff from 2021. Didn't want to dive too deep into it. 1, I don't have the All-22, and 2, it's also a while ago. We can do this a little bit later. But just to kind of get a sense of what this guy's bringing to the table, and this is definitely a different route tree than, say, Donovan Peoples-Jones or Josh Reynolds, and maybe in terms of how he will win. But what stands out with him, first off, is the amount of slot reps that he he is utilized in, which usually a guy at 6'4" that's working in a slot. There's probably some agility there. There's probably some good footwork there to be able to make that work, and those things absolutely are true. And also, being a reliable pass catcher is necessary, especially in traffic. Understanding how to find zone holes, those things are all necessary when you're aligning in the slot. Now he's in the slot. He's on the ball. And this is the kind of little thing that I liked, right? He's going to run an over ball route, which is right over the center. Sits himself down, spots himself up in zone, but watch the transition. There's the catch process away from his body, quickly into his body, understands he's going to take a hit, and finishes on the play. Route tree feels a little bit different in the sense that you got a lot of drag routes, a lot of crossers, a lot of wheel routes, a lot of post routes, longer developing routes working across the field. He had a beneath route touchdown against the Packers where he worked underneath the line of scrimmage. Yet that being said, what stood out, especially when I went back and watched it, was the footwork. It was the footwork for me. It's the upside in terms of the ability to get off the line of scrimmage, which stood out. We saw that really nice slant win against the Indianapolis Colts. But when you see him working level 1 routes and you see the footwork and how efficient it is, you see it at the top of the route here, how efficient it is into the breaks. It's limited. It's not a whole bunch of beating the drum. Watch him here. He quickly has that ability. He's got some explosiveness to drop his way to the top of the route, limit his footwork, and then he pulls his route back to the football and then hands catch. He's not the most loose receiver in the hips. You can see some tightness there a little bit, but he can drop his weight enough and then create separation that way. Level 1, level 2, and level 3. It's the reason he's able to run jerk routes and have success underneath. Obviously, he has some touchdowns as well, and if you go back to his last really 2 kind of full seasons, we'll call it, over 700 yards in each of those seasons, kind of fits into exactly what the Lions lost statistically speaking in terms of a guy like Josh Reynolds. That being said, if you go back to the 2021 season, he also only had 5 drops, kind of routes that we need right here. Here, cover 3 defense. He's going to sit in the zone hole, so he finds a window, finds it between the backers. They're going to run kind of this mesh look, so they're going to pry it open. Then he's got to settle himself in. I like right here how he starts to drift himself open with the quarterback. You see how he starts to relocate? For me, being able to get vertical when you're about 20 plus yards out, but in the red zone, not seemingly like your typical just throw a fade to him like maybe we try with Donovan Peoples-Jones. We've had different guys with different skill sets. We really haven't had a fade guy that often, but maybe more so of, again, kind of like St. Brown spotting up in the front of the line of scrimmage, but also being able to toe tap in the back line of the end zone, understanding, being aware of where you're at on the field, and being able to deal with some physicality. That feels like where he's going to be successful in some of the goal line spots based on what I've seen so far. But you start to see the footwork and the efficiency there. Then you start to see the catch technique, which is he's a hands catcher, maybe not the strongest hands. Ball feels like it can be broken loose a little bit, but he transitions very quickly. You'll see it when he has space to get upfield, understanding where the sticks are, the burst that he has right off the catch, that acceleration stands out, but also when in traffic to say, hey, I'm focused on making the grab first rather than taking off and trying to run. And he's going to come down the football, quick to tuck, take the hit, expecting that he's going to get hit, and finishing the process is the key. And hitting those zone holes is something that he does a really nice job of. He has that speed and burst to press guys in zone coverage, but he also has some of the flexibility to seemingly open up in man coverage to the point where he was graded as the 16th best receiver against man coverage in 2021 and the 31st best receiver against man coverage in 2020, which those 2 grades that he had in those 2 years would really have only been second to, I believe, Amon-Ra St. Brown over the last few years, maybe Josh Reynolds one of those couple of seasons as well. Love the way that he utilizes his hands, especially because laterally, I don't think he's the most agile receiver, but again, his footwork is really good, and he does do a nice job being pretty proactive in those spots to create some space. You don't see a ton of the agility specifically underneath level 1, but you see really good footwork. You see hip flexion to open himself up, run by diverse route tree, hit the juice right here, bam, and then look at that. He's able to sit himself down. He really dropped his weight too. There was some real bend. There was some real sink there. It wasn't upright. It was all beating the drum. He was able to actually drop his weight a little bit and kind of limit some of the footwork here. You see how low he gets? Boom, right there. 1, 2, 3, and he's back to the football. It's efficient. There's the catch. Traffic, tuck. I think his cornering has some limitations as well in terms of the lean and bend through like dig routes, but he can definitely stick and get flat. It just has some issues kind of cornering a little bit. He can kind of show that he's going into his double moves a little bit just by kind of way he breaks through those routes. They're not always as crisp. They can get a little bit rounded. You can give some tails off when it's happening. Open up a pretty diverse route tree, much more diverse than seemingly what Peoples-Jones was able to open up. Oh, he settles down on the sideline a little bit though here. You see the awareness where you have the coverage over top. He kind of sits himself down, dials it down. Be a reliable pass catcher and have the footwork to create separation at a lot of different levels and specifically just beat man coverage, level 1, level 2, and level 3. This is a smart player with really good size, so obviously he checks those boxes. And I'm going to keep this thing short and sweet, man, but I am very fired up that Tim Patrick is going to be signed as a Lion. He plays with really good control as a route runner, which I love. It's just, again, he may not have some of the natural shake underneath, in terms of avoiding zone coverage, but he uses his hands so well through the route and also at the catch point to create some separation. You find the football. Again, he's a consistent hands catcher. I just think this is an absolute beautiful pick up by the Lions, and I think sooner rather than later he's going to end up on the 53, and my guess is right now that by the time we get to week 1, he'll be on the 53-man roster as he works to kind of pick up this offense. Don't know how much he'll be utilized then, but my bet would be that he'll be on the 53. We'll keep an eye on how the practice squad all shakes out. Of course, I think the Lions are going to want to bring some of those guys back, and who knows, if he's not ready, maybe he's inactive, and you get someone for your practice squad and elevate him. That's always an option. But I think long-term here for this season, this is a terrific pickup for the Lions and an absolute upgrade as a guy that, yes, has the injury history, but he performed this preseason. I'm going to leave it there. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. So happy to have Tim Patrick in the building. Thank you, Prop, for watching, and I'm out.